Welcome back to Cycle Turtle Collectibles in beautiful Southern California. I'm here with my co-caster Caleb Pang, so we have some good matchups here for us with a local challenge.
All right, and I'm sure you all know K-Pine as a battler, but also shoutcaster now for this challenge, and a lot of our players are making a run back in the challenge, so you might have seen them in the cup, maybe you didn't, and they're going to be playing on the stream coming up. We have PsyRhino and the C2U, so should be a pretty solid matchup. Looking at the teams here, I say Aegislash, which I'm super hyped about. What do you think about the Aegislash?
I was going to say, Aegislash is such an interesting pick. It's a brand new Pokemon that is now just legal for the meta, unbanned. So it has a very unique aspect to it where it charges slower in shield form and with the Psycho Cuts, and it takes barely any damage in return, but when it throws its move, it switches to that blade form and deals some pretty hefty damage, so it's always something you have to keep in mind when making those shielding decisions. And that Aegislash is actually on the C2U's side, so it's going to be interesting to see if he does bring it here for this matchup or not.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the matchups there too, right, it does look pretty strong. Like, the best matchup's probably the Quagsire, but that's the thing, when you're in the shield form, you could just let a lot of these moves go. Meanwhile, you got Guzzlord, you're doing resisted Dragon Tail damage. Yeah, you have Super Effective Brutal Swing, but you can tank those pretty easily. Same with the Corviknight, Super Effective Sand Attack, non-stab, doesn't do that much, and you have the Super Effective Payback, which is okay, but the Aegislash is not really walled off by much, right? You got Ghost damage, you got Steel damage, so you're going to be able to hit back against a lot of these Pokemon, and if you lock into Wigglytuff or Medicham, it can be lights out. So I'm very curious to see how much C2 brings it, but I think there's a lot of play into PsyRhino's team.
I do as well. Also looking at CDU's team, I think that Togekiss has a good amount of play. It just really needs to avoid that Fortress. Yeah, pretty much just the Fortress on PsyRhino's side, and you could pair that up with something like a Clodsire to kind of like really lock it in, and as well as to deal with that fast move pressure of the Wiggly, the bulky Clodsire, especially with that poison typing, will be able to resist those charms and give it some play.
Yeah, C2 running the, I just noticed, double Fairy, double Sire team, the Quagsire and the Clodsire. Pretty interesting composition. I mean, he's really trying to scare off those dark types with both the Wigglytuff and the Togekiss, which can prove useful. So we'll see how it goes as we go into game number 1. It's going to be that Clodsire into the Corviknight lead, which is a fantastic lead for PsyRhino.
Corey is instantly going to swap into that Togekiss. He does not like the Clawed on that Corviknight. He's going to overfarm on energy as PsyRhino fires off an Air Cutter. Corey is happy to let this go as the Air Cutter is going to land. PsyRhino does swap into that Fortress where he has the good answer to, but C2 now has a good big peck head start where he's going to start firing off these Aura Spheres.
Yeah, you can let the first Aura Sphere go, but the second one is going to threaten a KO. I think PsyRhino just wanted to soften up with that Air Cutter and now can go for the aggressive Volt Switch down. I think he should be able to do it. I think Corey's at least 2 Air Cutters away, grabbing that first shield from PsyRhino, but you can definitely hit back at the Clodsire. However, there's that Aegislash look in the back, and Shield Advantage Aegislash looks to be pretty scary.
So PsyRhino is happy to give up 1 shield just to get a full Volt Switch down and start spamming off these Sand Tombs into CTU, but the CTU, that goes right into his plan. As Caleb mentioned, there's that Aegislash, which with that shield advantage can be extremely deadly. So CTU bringing that Clodsire, Togekiss, and Aegislash as we previously discussed, with PsyRhino trying to counter that play with that Fortress, Corviknight, and Guzzlord.
I like this pivot out from PsyRhino because he does have play into that Clodsire, especially at that health range with the Guzzlord, and now we see the potential of this Aegislash. Going to be a payback. Even in shield form, this is still valuable damage to mitigate, and C2 going to throw up that first shield, closing in on that double move. With a lot of players, they will opt to go for double moves before throwing a move on this Aegislash because you want to get the most amount of damage mitigated on the shield form before you swap onto that more frail blade form. Let's see how much a super effective payback does on the shield form. Not that much, honestly. And now PsyRhino's got some decisions to make. There can't really be a bait here as Gyro Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be at that same energy. He knows it's going to be the Shadow Ball. But here we go. Blade form Aegislash coming through. This is going to be a hard-hitting Shadow Ball. How much this does? Quite a bit, actually. And doesn't look like he's going to be able to get to that payback.
Those sand attacks were starting to chunk in that blade form, and it looks like that's what the CTU is going for. He's going to one shield and farm down with the Psycho Cuts, see if he can. PsyRhino getting aggressive, pivoting back into that Guzzlord. CTU almost at the back-to-back gyro balls. He's going to be firing off the first one here. It's going to be interesting if he's going to fire off the next one here, because he should be one Psycho Cut away, or he's going to pivot out to try and save that Aegislash for later.
Yeah, the Gyro is going to do a good chunk to the Guzzlord. I believe it does almost about... Oh, he goes for the catch, though, from the Brutal Swing, mitigating that damage on the Blade Form. Absolutely huge for CTU, as that would have definitely taken out his Aegislash before getting that Gyro Ball off. But now he's opting to just farm up a little additional energy. PsyRhino is locked in this matchup for the time being, so he's going to have to take a Stone Edge first. I like the Stone Edge from CTU because you're going to put it in Gyro Ball range anyway, and you need to throw 2 moves to take this out. So might as well get the guaranteed damage off. And timers are coming up. Oh, PsyRhino trying to overfarm a bit, but it's going to have to tank the Earthquake first. Might barely hang on, but it's going to be pretty close on this Guzzlord's HP.
We'll have to see. It looks like PsyRhino might be going for just a Fasu beatdown at this point, but that's going to be very hard to do with these double resisted Volt Switches into the Clodsire. But he makes the switch and the catch, and he gets the Sand Attack through. This is exactly what PsyRhino needed to be able to get that Volt Switch down.
That's a huge catch. 4 turn into 2 turn. That is not easy to pull off. He has almost a double Sand Tomb, but the Gyro Ball comes out first as CTU throws it in between. Resisted damage. It is enough, though, to KO the Fortress, and we see Aegislash come to action this first game.
CTU, calm, cool, collected. He had a game plan all along, and he was able to execute it perfectly here to take the first match of this best of 3.
Yeah, that was a tough endgame for PsyRhino because it was a great catch, but if he throws a Sand Tomb and it's just a Clodsire, right, then it's not going to be a great spot for him to be in. And you know, if he just tries to go for the double up, which is what he's going for, CTU just, you know, swaps in the Aegislash and throws in between the Volt Switch, not allowing him to even throw the Sand Attack.
Especially being down shields there for PsyRhino.
Exactly.
CTU made it. PsyRhino did what he could to make it very close, but CTU knew he was in control that entire time.
Man, this Aegislash, it definitely looks like a true threat, especially if you can avoid any Quagsire action, which there was no Quagsire on the side of PsyRhino. So I don't know how he's going to address this. I mean, I think for this next game, he may consider bringing the Quagsire for sure, but like, there are answers to it, right? Like, it's not the best into Guzzlord. You have a mirror matchup. Wiggly and Wigglytuff and Togekiss both can do pretty solid into it. No true answers for the Quagsire, though, so in my mind, I think it's still a pretty safe Pokemon for him to bring, but if he doesn't really get it onto Aegislash, it's probably not the most useful, and CTU's probably feeling pretty comfortable if it's on anything but the Aegislash and maybe the Clodsire, too. Yeah,
with how the Aegislash played out last match, you know PsyRhino is definitely considering that in his team comp here, where he might go double, even triple strong to it to just try and counteract play to it best he could, but I agree, I think that Shadow Quagsire pick is looking fantastic here. So we'll have to see if he decides to try and also bring in a potential with the Medicham to work around with the Guzzlord and the Clodsire with the Psycho Cuts and Ice Punches, or if he goes around a different core.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a pretty safe... Well, I don't know. I was going to say safe for the Wigglytuff because you know that it's really hard for PsyRhino to bring certain Pokemon here. Or no, I should say his Guzzlord. His Guzzlord looks really safe because it's really hard for PsyRhino to bring Wigglytuff, right? You got Aegislash, you got Clodsire, you got everything else that has neutral play into it outside the Guzzlord, which means that CTU's Guzzlord should be pretty safe to bring in. Like, you know, if you have Wigglytuff onto an Aegislash, that's just game over right then and there for PsyRhino if he's locked in that matchup. So it puts him in a tough bind in his team selection, right? You can see he's trying to figure it out. Medicham as well, too. I mean, I'd be curious how that matchup goes against Aegislash, but I feel like it's pretty one-sided. A Shadow Ball from Blade form should easily knock out the Medicham from full health. On top of it, you're throwing resisted Psycho Cuts at a shield form and Dynamic Punch for neutral. Like, that's not going to do it. Actually, no. That's still resisted because the ghost typing too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Medicham matchup is absolutely awful as well. And I don't know. I mean, Aegislash is definitely on the up and coming, but I would be surprised if it doesn't win any major tournaments in this upcoming season.
Getting started into the second match, and a terrible lead for PsyRhino, leading that Guzzlord into the Togekiss. He's going to pivot out into that Corviknight, but there's a lot of work for him to put in at this point. CTU is perfectly fine chipping with that Aura Sphere first, and then I'd say he's most likely going to pivot out of this matchup into the Aegislash, or he's happy just staying in here and getting farm. Oh, he decides to swap and makes a very nice catch of the Air Cutter onto his Quagsire.
Yeah, this damage is pretty negligible for the Quagsire. I mean, it's a tough lead for PsyRhino, but if you look at his backline, this Togekiss beats everything on PsyRhino's team, which puts him in a really tough position. But you can tell that he's trying to position to overprotect his team from Aegislash, but because of that, you open yourself weakness to a Togekiss. But that's a problem for a different part of this battle, because PsyRhino still has to get through with this Quagsire, and he's actually forced to burn his first shield on top of it.
CTU full set the Stone Edge. Wishing he probably would have baited now at this point, as it does get shielded, and PsyRhino's going to full send the payback in return, and CTU is going to put up his first Protect Shield as he does correctly mitigate the damage from that payback. He's going to load up. Aqua Tail won't KO from here, so he is going to full send that Stone Edge. Does PsyRhino want to give up his final shield at this point? He says no. He's happy letting the Corviknight go and playing for energy on the Guzzlord.
Yeah, great charge back priority for CTU to maximize it. And PsyRhino, yes, he is much stronger into the Aegislash this game, but he is way weaker to Togekiss. So he did cover one problem, but another problem is sprouting out, and that is in that form of that flying fairy type. He's farming up a ton of energy, though. Is going to probably throw. No, goes for the full Dragon Tail down, and he gets it. That's huge.
This is actually huge for PsyRhino, because now he has the back-to-back Sludge Bombs to threaten this Togekiss. There's no need to bait here, and CTU knows that. So he's giving up his final shield to Sludge Bomb number 1, and PsyRhino, he's already at the back-to-back, so he's going to under-tap it, and this is going to be some massive damage on that Togekiss. I'm not sure if it will be enough to one-shot, but it will do a ton of damage.
Yeah, this is one way to help take care of that, and now comes the Quagsire. Yes, it's go straight for the Dazzling Gleam. Let's see if it decides to shield us or not. There's the Aegislash in the back that you do have to respect, and he's going to let the hard-hitting Dazzling go and connect. That's a ton of damage, and I like this too. He's staying into force the engine from PsyRhino because you can't much shot this down. And now, I don't know. I mean, Aegislash don't do much damage with that Cycle Cut damage, but it might be enough at this range. And again, you can take this damage no problem at Aegislash. At least one Aqua Tail, definitely two, maybe even a third.
Aegislash just Psycho Cutting away, and those look like they're triple resisted Psycho Cuts at this point. As we mentioned, the Psycho Cuts with Aegislash in shield form barely does any damage, and that might be PsyRhino's saving grace here, as he still has a shield. So the C2's gonna have to get to the back-to-back and hope he can outpace to that before PsyRhino's Aqua Tail spam does him in.
Yeah, I believe if I understand the mechanics correctly for Aegislash, each of the fast attacks from the shield form will always only do 1 damage apiece, which is why it looks like this Quagsire is just chilling, hasn't even taken any damage yet. And C2 building up to the double. Now, actually, PsyRhino comes in. I actually don't hate this play because he left with the move, and now he still has a shield. He could let this go, shield the next one, and just throw the Aqua Tail, and that should be GG's. And on top of it, C2 is going to be in Blade form. Is this timer up? No, I think his Togekiss is out of the picture. Yeah, it's just his final Pokemon left. He's one off, but that's going to be enough to take it out. He was almost a few mud shots away, too, in the Blade form. Is way more frail. And PsyRhino coming out of nowhere and finding a win condition here against a really tough team composition to even up the series.
Was able to leverage that Guzzlord energy really, really well, and it went a long way in that Togekiss, which looked really, really good into the matchup and the team comp he brought originally.
Yeah, he really doubled and tripled down that Guzzlord farm down against Quagsire. It looked a little dicey, but he fully committed that Dragon Tail down, and you can see Corey just one turn off from getting that Stone Edge. If he got that Stone Edge, that could have changed the entire outcome of the game, but it gave everything PsyRhino needed to even up the series. And let's see how they adjust for game number 3. I mean, that one looked like a tough one for him, but he found a way.
I would expect to still see a bit of that Togekiss Aegislash core here from the CTU in game 3, but PsyRhino, with what the C2 has been bringing, I'm not against the Medi. I know you could just avoid the Aegislash, but you run something like a Medi Shadow Quagsire core, that can work well, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Medicham wins the zeros against Togekiss.
Yes, yeah, because you outpace, right? Because you get to Ice Punch on 5-4, 5-4, Togekiss gets there on straight 5, so Medicham's pacing is pretty disgustingly fast.
But there is a actual difference in majority of movesets that Togekiss
Yes.
uses. This
Yes,
one is
yes,
on
yeah.
Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah.
So that throws a wrench into that.
That does throw a wrench, but in some ways it's good and bad, right? You have to worry about the potential Dazzling Gleam, but at the same time, if you shield a Dazzling Gleam, then the Medicham is really eating good, right? So it kind of goes both ways in some way, shape, or form. The Dazzling Gleam did come in handy for CTU, but even after Dazzling Gleam, you just could not fast tag down the Quagsire with the Aegis Slash. And I think this is where you see, a lot of pros for Aegis Slash, but there are some cons to keep it more in balance, which is why not every player is running it, despite the expensiveness of it. But a fantastic lead for PsyRhino to kick off game number 3. And we see the damage transfer over to the Quagsire for Corey.
CTU is going to swap into that Shadow Quagsire, and PsyRhino does not have a great answer for this. So he's going to fire off a Sand Tomb with his own Fortress first, and then pivot into a Corviknight, which is a very, very smart play. Softening up that Quagsire and could potentially put it into an Air Cutter plus Sand Attack downrange. He doesn't want to come in with his own Quagsire yet, because he was reading that this swap is a bait out for his own Quagsire Mirror, that the CTU will be able to run away with the game with his Aegis Slash, but he benched the Aegis Slash this time with a 5-headed play. He was able to bait out the Corviknight, so now the Guzzlord is going to be on PsyRhino's Quagsire in the end game.
Yeah, that Guzzlord's going to have a lot of play into both the backline Pokemon. The real question is if CTU can't flip switch advantage, can he make something happen with this Guzzlord with the shield advantage? He's actually going to let the first Air Cutter go, so, but it's actually enough though, and that's actually particularly bad for him because now this Corviknight's going to get additional energy. I just could put everything on the backs of that Guzzlord to try to clean out that back line. Let's see if PsyRhino's going to get any additional boost or not, but I think CTU is going to overfarm as much as possible. These Aura Spheres still do a decent amount of neutral damage, especially to the Shadow Fortress, so any extra energy here can be useful for later.
I'd assume he's going to overfarm till right before the next Air Cutter, which he does. Great counting by the CTU. Really able to lock in, especially in such a bad lead matchup. But we'll see if this will help him reach another Aura Sphere against the Fortress before he takes too much Volt Switch damage. No, he was still too off, so he throws one, defers that Volt Switch into the Guzzlord, and now here is where he needs to hope that the Guzzlord is going to have a great matchup into this end game.
Yeah, this is starting to get a little bit awkward for PsyRhino. So you see him shaking his head a little bit. He's going to have to save the shield for the Togekiss as he knows that it's closing in on an Aura Sphere. Has to go for this debuff. I think he's going to opt to maybe try to Volt Switch down later, and it's good shield from CTU, recognizes that, okay, maybe PsyRhino is not super strong in the back, which is definitely going to be the case with the Quagsire, but debuffing this is going to be nice for PsyRhino, so you can eat this damage a lot more easily, allows the Quagsire to have a slightly better matchup into Guzzlord, despite the fact that Guzzlord has energy coming into this matchup. But timers are coming up soon, and he should be able to swap with the Togekiss. Does he opt to do that is a different question.
PsyRhino played it a little bit risky, making the call for that Aegis Slash, but in doing so, built himself a little bit too weak to that Guzzlord in that endgame, and it's been putting in a lot of work here. As he swaps back into the Quagsire, and the C2 fires off that Aura Sphere, pulling that final Protect Shield from PsyRhino. Quagsire was into a CMP tie as well, so that is very good for the C2. He's able to let this Aqua Tail go, knowing that at this point, Togekiss did do its job.
Ooh, a great undercharge from PsyRhino, though. Allows him to get one more Volt Switch through, and now he has to move bank. He throws the Rock Tomb right away, wants to get the C-Buff off. I think C2 just has to let this go, because you don't want to get hit by Stone to KO you later. But this is going to put him in Aqua Tail range, actually, and that's not ideal. Let's see if he could get a big farm down or not. Going to throw on improper timing to get a little bit more extra energy out, knowing that this should KO anyway. It's going to come down to the wire, because the Quagsire, I believe, still has an Aqua Tail banked. He just needs to get to one more, but I think CTU should be able to get to it. As you can see, PsyRhino sees the writing on the wall. CTU has the Brutal Swing loaded. One more Charge Deck should do it, and that's going to be it. Guzzlord closing it out for CTU and coming back from a disastrous lead to win the series 2-1.
Very well played endgame. Some fantastic battles all throughout these three. You really couldn't tell who was going to win the entire time. They were bouncing around a ton, but the C2 able to come out victorious on this matchup.
Yeah,
congratulations to him.
Exactly. This is there are Swiss rounds, so we have 3 rounds, so there's a chance that PsyRhino still can come back from this. But we see a little sneak preview of what Aegis Slash can really do, and I like it because the first game looked pretty strong, unstoppable. Second game looked very, very easy to play around, right? If you can't fast tag things down. So a lot of pros and cons to this Pokemon, but
it definitely has a lot of niches that's really worth learning. So you're trying to get into this game more competitively, or you're just trying to understand what new meta Pokemon there are, this is definitely one to take into account to understand how it plays.
Yeah.
I'm going to be curious to see if the more people that start to account for it in their team builds, if it becomes a little bit more RPS in play with the really positive matchups and those negative matchups.
Yeah, it seems like if you don't have a really strong counter to it, like a Quagsire, then it could do a lot of damage to your team. That Shadow Ball really chunked the Corviknight's Knight's health, and you can see the Gyro Ball has a lot of potential even to Guzzlord. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, if C2 keeps playing like this, then we'll see him more on stream, and we'll see more Aegis Slash. We're going to take a quick break, though. We'll be right back for round number 2.